Happy Thursday and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines, brought to you by our newest presenting sponsor, Zipline Beer. This Father's Day, raise a can of ZipLite, the fresh new beer from Zipline Brewing Company. It's made right here in Nebraska. ZipLite gives dad the beer he deserves, whether he's mowing the lawn, out fishing, at a tailgate, or just enjoying a great garage beer. ZipLite is the perfect companion after a long day, so you can relax. 95 calories. I just picked up some sip. It's an excellent beer.
Really?
ZipLite beer. It'd be a good beer to drink if you're going to do heavy-duty work outside.
Okay. Well, it's a handsome box. I will say that. I've never had it.
I just got some. It just came out. 95. Perfect. Great. We unloaded our storage room last night. So it involved moving tile and old flooring to the dumpster. So
It's heavy work.
Took out some ZipLite. But speaking of heavy work,
yes.
Matt Rhule and his Husker football team have a very, very busy recruiting weekend coming up ahead. And, that's headline number one, because not only that, they're going to have a huge camp weekend as well, Friday and Sunday prospect camps. But first, the visitor weekend for Nebraska. Right now, 11 confirmed official visitors in. So pretty much a capacity weekend. You don't want to go much higher than this. As you can see, some of the big names, S.J. Afalatui, the offensive lineman out of Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman. Isaiah Mosey is a surprise visitor.
Okay.
Lee Summit North. He is an Oregon commit. He was supposed to visit Nebraska for the spring game. He was high school teammates with Keelan Smith. He will be here now, and his father was the one-time head coach of Lee Summit North High School. He's now on Gus Malzahn's staff at Central Florida.
Okay.
So that's one to watch. Then you got Christian Jones, Omaha West Side. He was at Auburn last weekend, did not go to USC, went to Auburn instead. He's got Nebraska. Then he's got Oklahoma next weekend. So that's a big in-state battle for Nebraska. Malcolm Simpson, one of their top D-line targets, out of Galveston, Texas. Then, some commits are going to be here like Bertini, but Cade Padiedrek from West Fargo in North Dakota, Brian Tapu from Utah, Aiden Manatua from Kahuku High School, where we were at earlier this.
Kahuku.
North Shore.
North Shore, yeah.
That was one of the more unique drives I've ever made in my life.
And that's a power.
That's kind of the blue collar traditional power program of Hawaii.
Interesting.
And then Bryson Hayes, who's committed, Connor Booth, who's committed, then Sean Hammerback, another regional guy from South Dakota. So a good group of 11 official visitors this weekend. Then camp on Friday Night Lights. You got to expect about 300 to 350 prospects there. And then a Sunday camp, a prospect camp, which, those generally can be between 200 and 300 prospects. So you're looking at over 500 athletes on campus for camps, along with 11 official visitors this weekend, as you would say, hello.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, June, the one thing we can do in the spirit of public service is drive home the point that June is incredibly packed for college football coaches, especially this weekend, but all through June, except the coaches, as you noted in your 3-2-1, they can go on vacation June 23, June 23rd. But God, I mean, the thing that boggles my mind is how they keep all the names straight. I mean, they got to keep the names
parents
straight.
That come with them.
Parents, handlers, uncles, brothers and sisters. So it's critical though. These are critical times. I mean, just little things, quote unquote, little things get lost. Like just how you present the camp is important, but you got to present the camp all the while knowing that you got some big time players coming in here and you need them. I mean, you need to get some of these guys.
Well, and it's a juggling act to manage your board right now.
Yeah.
Because prospects come and go. Corey Sims, 4-star receiver out of St. Louis, pops the top 3. Nebraska's not on it.
Yeah, off the board.
And so you got to juggle it. And for all we know, Nebraska's known that for quite a while.
What about Dawson Merritt?
Dawson Merritt visits Alabama, which was known. Now he's going to come up with a decision here soon. But, Michael Terry, you're waiting on him, the 5-star visiting A&M this weekend, was at Texas. He's visited Nebraska. They lost Broderick Scholl, an offensive lineman they brought in over Mother's Day weekend, to Auburn. So you've got to juggle that and have kind of the next move ready to go.
Right. And you have an extensive recruiting staff. I mean, we heard from Vince Ginta a few weeks ago. Sean, I think that recruiting staff's up over 20 people now. And this is why. This conversation is why. There's a lot to think about. It's got to operate at a high level.
Yeah. And then, they've made so many new offers too. That's the other lost element of camps. And Brian Munson did a nice breakdown. I mean, they're basically at 20 camp offers or 20 new offers over the month of June in that ballpark.
Think about that.
And that's ranging from David Hoofkin, who's a 2024, all the way to 8th graders that are going to be 9th graders, like Asa Mina, the quarterback. So you've got a lot of moving parts there, as you can see. We broke down all the offers this week. Konstantin Paschos from Germany, still trying to kind of get a visit set up to Nebraska. He's an edge player. A lot of 26s and a lot of 27s.
Yeah, you met the 2027 D lineman Amari Vickerson, whose dad played with.
Kid came right up to me and shook my hand.
Yeah, Amari Vickerson's dad played with Terrence Knighton for I believe it was a year with the Broncos.
And Vickerson's dad was a dude.
Yeah, a big dude, a big defensive lineman, a hulking defensive lineman.
Will Hawthorne, intrigued with him. And
that's right.
And if he'll come back up for a visit.
He camped.
They offered, and he's going to come back for a visit in June. I don't know what day it's going to be. It's going to be midweek. We've seen South Dakota offers. We've seen Kansas offers. I mean, how about that? They go into Lawrence and Manhattan, the home of the Wildcats and the Jayhawks.
Yeah.
And they made a couple of 2026 offers.
Yeah, Hawthorne, you're trying to wrestle away from the Big 12, essentially. There's another 2027 that caught your eye, Cooper Terwilliger, tight end prospect.
3 quarterback offers that were 8th and 9th graders last year.
Go.
Jamison Purcell, Asa Mina, Brady Quinn.
That's what you do, though, and that's not a new conversation.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because they came in through for you. They worked out. They look good. If you don't offer them, you're out of it.
Right. And again, when I say it's not a new conversation, I think I said this in a previous show, but I'll just repeat it. I can remember distinctly after our practice during the Mike Riley era, after a Friday practice, I asked Danny Langsdorf, what are you doing? What do you got this weekend? He said, I'm going out to visit an 8th grader in California, quarterback. I'm going out to watch an 8th grader in California. Now, that was what year? The Riley era encompassed what years?
It would have been like 2016.
Yeah. So, that's almost a 10-year-old discussion. It happens.
No, and I think for Nebraska, you're like, look, if our offense looks good right this year and the years to come with Dylan Raiola, you've got something to sell. Like an Asa Mina is going to be probably close to a 5-star.
Yeah.
All those guys that got offered are 4- and 5-star level players. Just like Dylan Raiola came as a 9th grader and earned offers from everybody that summer.
Yeah. That's why there's pressure there's always pressure. When I say there's pressure, Sean, I don't mean there's job pressure. Nobody's on a hot seat, but Satterfield, he needs to put an offense out there that looks like the future, that looks like something they can build on. It's not what you don't want is an offense that says, well, we're just trying to get through this year right now.
That was last year.
Yeah.
And people are very critical of him, but what were they supposed to run?
Right. It was a ragtag operation because of the injuries at quarterback and receiver.
And running back.
And running back, right. So, they got ravaged. Oh, and it was rough. And Satterfield will tell you privately it was rough. It was rough.
Well, they were to the point where they were bringing in Tom Osborne to break down option film dang near.
Yep, they were. And Ron Brown. Ron Brown was showing them how to run option. They were running things that they didn't really prepare. They didn't prepare to run. It was all of a sudden this week, we have to run this.
It's almost like they knew Harburg, we can win a couple games, but his body's not going to survive. And then we'll have to go on to Purdy at that point.
Yeah. So, that side of the ball, we've verged away from the big visit weekend, but that side of the ball should look much better this year. I mean,
All right.
much better.
HuskerOnline headlines again. We're brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Zipline Beer. Give the new ZipLite beer a try. Great summer beer. Thanks again to Zipline. And also, we're brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. Ellerbrock-Norris has been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purposes for over 120 years with their management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Workplace injury skyrocketing your compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping you retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to key family, employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and your employees in it, your life outside of work, or your employees and your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. That's Ellerbrock-Norris. Thanks again for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, taking in headline number 2, we got another backstage look of Nebraska football, and probably one of the more fascinating ones that we've ever had in my time covering the program. We were with Corey Campbell, and he broke down strength and conditioning. We talked to Mitch Chulwitzki. Did I get that right?
Nope.
Okay.
Chulwitzki. Yeah, Chulwitzki.
And then we talked to Kristen over at Nebraska.
Kristen
Coggin at Nebraska's nutrition and performance department. Spent a lot of time over there. Got to see the new weight room, and that was fascinating to me. To get a look at the new weight room for the very first time in person.
There it is.
Just the sheer size of it. The natural lighting that comes.
Thank you for saying that. That's beautiful. I mean that.
And then the access to the field right from the weight room.
Right. So, yeah, the guys, Mitch Chulwitzki, who is Nebraska's coordinator of football sports science, they both, Chulwitzki and Corey Campbell, talked about things like space and flow. I mean, the space is self-explanatory, right? But flow is important too. In the previous setup, and I wrote this, so I'm just reading from the story. You can tell me if I'm accurate. Nebraska football players had to walk from the indoor practice field to a nearby staircase, climb the steps in single file, then walk for a few more minutes to reach the weight room in North Stadium. I'd say 5 minutes. 5-minute walk.
But just cumbersome,
Yeah, in the new setup, as you saw, Sean, the transition involves walking from the practice field straight into the weight room, which you could, in that entrance, you could drive a semi-trailer truck through that, right? So everybody can just walk in. It's kind of inviting. I mean, weight rooms aren't generally inviting, but it's a clean, beautiful setup they have.
Oh, and just the recovery areas too.
You saw that. I did not see that.
The cold tub is massive. I mean, the cold pool, or I wouldn't even call it a tub. It's a pool. And they can get that down to as cold as you want. He goes, the lowest we'll usually ever go would be like 42 degrees.
42 seems cold enough to me.
Yeah. And he goes, then you're starting to, you get hypothermia.
You don't want to freak everybody out.
That cold, they could fit, several players in there after a practice, after a workout. Then they have the hot tub, the sleeping pods, the steam rooms and saunas. These were things Nebraska never had before. I mean, just in terms of recovery. And I think when Rhule got here, this was one of the real wrinkles he put on the project.
Recovery. Yes. He emphasized, remember really early on after Rhule got hired, the word recovery became more part of our lexicon. He emphasizes that. You're right. And it makes sense. It's common sense, right? I mean, what are you trying to do with football players? You're just trying to get them on the field as much as they can, especially, all of them. But if your best player can't practice and he continually can't practice, then at some point he's not going to be your best player anymore. So, recovery is critical in the sport of football because of the nature of it. Now I got to quit just stating the obvious and move on here. What else?
The barber shop was interesting.
The barber shop.
I didn't know they were having and is there a barber? I didn't know this, if there was a barber in there or how that works. But there's still a little bit of fine tuning going on. Like they're not in the dining room yet. That's not going to happen until August.
Okay.
They're obviously in the weight room. They can fit all 145 players in there if they had to, but
they don't.
It's too many.
They don't want to.
And they want to, so they have a couple of groups. And right now the team, they get 8 hours of or the key word is 8 hours of organized mandatory time a week.
Okay.
6 hours of that is with Corey Campbell. So they have 4 90-minute lifting sessions in the weight room. And then you're allowed 2 hours of on the field time.
Right. So that's the 8 hours.
And those on the field practices take place Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. And I happened to be around when the Tuesday one was happening. And I mean, it's a real practice. I mean, the coaches are all down there. It's an installation. It's a real practice. They can't have a football out there. So a lot of drill work and a lot of install.
Here's what happens, Sean. You're right. It's not jack around time. What they do in this, this is what a lot of programs do. This is a period, June, of heavy installation. I mean, it's heavy. So they, especially at the start, of OTAs. So what did you write today? They have 7 weeks of OTAs.
Well, basically the summer program is 7 weeks.
Okay. So it's heavy installation on the front end. It tails off and then they go back over the exact same stuff in camp. They just revisit it, but you can see why it's important, Sean. This is getting ready for the season now. That's what I hope people get out of this particular video. Is June is incredibly important.
And the coaches for all of June are a part of this. And then after they go on the home for the dead period or take a break, then the players start to lead these workouts.
Right. And the strength staff. So the strength staff, I don't know. I don't want to get out over my skis here, but the month of July, the strength staff becomes the coaching staff.
Along with your key veterans.
Yeah, right. Along with your leaders, yeah.
Like a Hutmacher, a Robinson, a Jamori Butler, a Thomas Fedoni.
Who on offense?
I mean,
Fedoni. Who else on offense?
Those linemen, Ben Hart, Prohaska, Ben Scott.
Yep.
It was interesting when we were over there, the guys that you saw like utilizing the recovery and they're the key players. We saw Dylan Raiola in the hot tub. We saw Ben Scott rocking around. The key faces of the team were some of the guys in there getting the work done.
June is getting work done. And I'd say July, but yeah, you remove the coaches from the equation in July. So for not all of July, because they start camp, as you pointed out in your 3-2-1, they start camp. Preseason camp is July 31. So the coaches have to come. They're not going to come back July 30th. I wouldn't think.
No, I mean, I think you're back in the office at least a week before, if not more.
Yeah. So there's the setup. I hope that's what I hope people understand. It's not just a recruiting month.
They'll have 3 full weeks off, though, is my guess. The coaches, like, they can get away for at least 3 weeks.
But you know how that goes. They don't get away because they'll be on their phones.
No, and they'll I've talked to Ed Full. I think he's going to New Jersey, because there was an event I was trying to talk to him about doing somewhere, and he's going to be gone. A lot of them will be gone. On the road.
They go on the road, but they they stay in contact with players.
Now, Coach Rhule will be around this June or July because his wife is opening her business. So usually he would get away too for a little bit, and he said we'll probably not get away because of what's going on with this, family and the business. So yeah, it's even when he's opening a business in town, it's with his wife. So
God bless him.
He's got a lot on his plate going on right now too.
Yeah. So the backstage look, we really appreciate. We really do. We've never had this. Yeah. I saw a photo of you with a, what do you call it?
An apron.
An apron. I've never worn one. I don't intend to.
I'm glad I did though, because it got a little splattery.
Did it? What were you making?
Well, it was like a hibachi kind of rice bowl. And so I put avocado oil in, garlic, vegetables of my choice, protein. So I went with shrimp and a sprinkle of meat, a hamburger in there.
That's good.
Cooked it all
shrimp
up.
And hamburger.
Yeah.
Hibachi.
And then you had rice and noodles.
Sounds good to me.
Teriyaki and soy sauce and just kind of go to town.
Were you allowed to eat it?
Oh, heck yeah.
See, what people, so they probably don't understand what we're talking about here. They give us this tour. Not only did they give you a tour, and not only did they set up a press availability.
There I am, by the way.
They not only set up a press availability, they allowed you to make some food. It's amazing what they did for us. And it gave you material for your column. It gave us a story, Corey Campbell and Mitch Towinski. And by the way, Campbell said that the difference he sees with the players is confidence, more confidence. They know, they fully know what they can do now. And should be that way in year two, probably year two of a program, but that's good to hear.
And one of the things they do on these recruiting trips is kind of what we did. Instead of telling these kids all about the great food, they let them do something engaging and have fun with it.
Oh yeah. You wrote something really interesting. They show current players. They have demonstrations for the current players
to cook at home
and to put some greens and some fruits on your plate, color it up.
They have an air fryer class I saw coming up.
That's amazing. Now, this is all very interesting to me because it's life skills too. I mean, I never learned how to cook.
So my mom was a home ec teacher for a big part of her career. And a lot of this stuff she taught junior high students, life skills, and took them to she actually used to take a group of kids every year to a hibachi restaurant.
Really?
The 7th, 8th grade
Really?
Kids from Plattsmouth.
Yeah.
And so they could experience that because a lot of the kids had never been to somewhere like that and
right.
Learn how to eat at a nicer restaurant and sit down.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these players and maybe even journalists had never done anything like that. Right.
I've cooked a lot.
Yeah. You cook a lot. I don't.
I just got a new flat top grill.
Yeah. So you know what you're doing.
Well, I haven't turned it on yet. I haven't had time, Mr. Haven't had a day off in 14. Sipple comes in. He's like, I haven't had a day off in 14 days. And
I mean, we always tell our families, hey, don't worry. When the season ends, we'll have some time. Then when you tell them,
right there cooking.
Then when you tell them in June you have no days off, it starts to get a little unwieldy.
Just giving you a hard time. All right. Thanks again for joining us on Husker Online Headlines. Again, we're brought to you by Zipline Beer. Get out there. Get a 6-pack of the new ZipLite. I can attest. I picked one up at the 56.
Where'd you pick it up?
I picked it up at 56 in Pine Lake at their German style beer hall there, the beer hall. And they had plenty on stock there. It's pretty new. Not all the grocery stores have it yet. It will be out in most stores soon, but they have it at the all their locations to pick up. And again, we're also brought to you here by Omaha Steaks. Father's Day is this weekend. So if you're struggling to find that perfect gift for the man that has everything, give him a simple solution. You give him Omaha Steaks, because who doesn't want a world-class steak? Father's Day experts of Omaha Steaks have made it easy to put a smile on the big guy's face with hand-selected gift packages starting at just $99. And when you use the promo code HuskerOnline at checkout, you'll get $10 off your order. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless flavor, endless variety, endless value. They truly have perfected more than steak, and your dad is guaranteed to love every bite. Pick from premium proteins like juicy pork chops, air-shelled chicken, beefy burgers. Time is running out, though. Don't wait until the last minute. Go to omahasteaks.com. Order with the packages that's starting at $99, and don't forget to use that promo code HuskerOnline at checkout. You're going to get $10 off. Shop for unforgettable gifts that are guaranteed to make Dad's day, because if there's one thing Omaha Steaks knows, it's Dad's one steak. Visit omahasteaks.com and shop packages starting at $99. And when you use the promo code HuskerOnline at checkout, we're going to give you $10 off. Thanks again to omahasteaks.com. And I've been told we have sold a lot of steaks from Omaha Steaks, so I'm proud to hear that.
You've been told that?
Yeah. They let us know, man. Like Husker Online, you guys are killing it with. So a lot of our users have taken advantage of that, and we appreciate hearing that.
Sean, if you didn't do this job, you could be a travel agent for sure, or you could sell Omaha steak at a super.
We had some last night.
Well, you sell it. It's very convincing. It's very convincing. And I will tell you this. I will sit around sometimes thinking about steak. I love it that much.
We grilled up 4 Omaha steak sirloins, marinated them, and had steak tacos last night.
Steak tacos.
It's a family staple at the Callahan house.
You are not in rough times at the Callahan house. Steak tacos sound okay. Now I got a question. a cooking question. Are these hard shell or soft shell?
Soft. We have a skillet.
Good for you.
We
Good
warm
for
the
you.
shell up on the skillet.
Good for you.
No oil. Just warm them up, flip them like
Good
a
for you.
pancake, and it's perfect.
Good for you. Yeah, I'm not a hard shell person, and I'm not corn tortilla. I mean, if it's corn tortilla, I'm out.
We order like when
Flour
we go out to Mexican, we always order fajitas, my wife and I, and literally like one order is enough for like 10 people. When you get like an order, they come over to your table, it's like a whole kitchen, and they bring it to your table, and you're like, this is just one for one person. So as we've gotten older, we just end up sharing it. It's like an endless supply of food.
Yeah, you don't both need it.
Okay. Headline 3, biggest takeaways from Husker camp so far. Obviously, the aggression of offers, and we hit on that earlier, continues. But then I'll say this, the numbers are up again.
Okay.
And I think we knew that was going to be the case. When you say, hey, we're going to make offers and we're going to offer guys, and you back it up, more kids come to your camps, younger players especially. The guest coaches have caught my attention.
Okay.
We saw North Dakota's head coach,
Bubba
Schwiegert at practice at the camps all weekend. We saw Tim Polasek from North Dakota State. He was there all weekend with his coaches. Northern Illinois' head coaches there. Northern Iowa's head coaches there. So just the presence of regional programs, that has never really been the case at Nebraska's camps. Under Frost, you might have saw one or two guys that they knew get in, but not like just an open deal. And last year, Wyoming's entire staff was here.
For a lot of the players, prospects, there's some pressure here. I mean, there's pressure to perform. I mean, they're trying to get looks. They're trying to get offers. And you know what? You know what we've seen, and we don't need to talk about names. We've seen some kids come to camp and not perform and not get an offer. You know,
the 40 matters.
Yeah, that happens.
The measurables, Matt Rhule and his staff, they look at there are things that you have to be a pro level player. Measurables, speed, testing data.
Right.
And if you're lacking those key components, they can't make you into the player they want to build Nebraska with. And that's what, so they really put a lot of stock into the measurables and the 40s and those things, because they feel like our coaching and development here will get you to that point, a la Jalen Lloyd.
Right. So, yeah, it's pretty, what I noticed is it's pretty intense. It's not just, when me and you were going to basketball camps as youth, it was intense enough, but it was still kind of light. This isn't light. I mean, they're competing, and that's the key word. The coaches they want players who compete and love it. Love to compete, aren't scared to come to camp and run for Matt Rhule. And there's some risk. There is some risk in that scenario. Oh God, I just ran a 4.88. I may not get this offer, So there's risk involved, and that makes it kind of interesting.
Yeah. I feel like when we were growing up, Nebraska football camp was big for offering guys, but you just kind of went to camps to have fun. I mean, it wasn't high. Like, I used to go living in Omaha. I went to Creighton basketball camp every summer, and
it's kind of fun.
It was fun. I did win $20 off Flip Saunders once.
How'd that happen?
So he had this game where he just threw dollar bills, crumbled them up on the floor. And if you got a question right or rose your hand, you got to go out and shoot, and you picked a spot. And I didn't know what dollar bill. I hit a shot, got $20.
Really? Flip Saunders went on to coach the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
What was he doing there?
He was the Sioux Falls Skyforce head coach.
Okay.
And he was a speaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, what the hell was he doing?
He was a speaker at the camp.
Okay. Interesting.
So I went over to the arcade back then and probably dropped all $20.
Probably quickly. I don't want to say these camps aren't fun, but I think they're more fun if you're a competitor. Like if you want to compete, like the Northwestern quarterback that came here. Jalen,
and we're still waiting.
Jalen Graham,
and I'm going to get into more of that in Tunnel Talk, but
we're not going to give up anything.
But the guys like that are fighting to get here, and I think they've extended a couple opportunities to some of these guys that worked out, and we'll kind of see how it all plays out here in the coming days. All right, before we go on to headline number 4, again, Husker on the Headlines brought to you by Zipline Beer. Great beer, great products, not just ZipLite. Copper Alt IPA, the dang IPA, which is Robin's personal favorite. Give them
say that clip.
I think it's the Dang IPA.
Yeah.
That's Robbins.
Yeah, you weren't casting aspersions on it. You were stating the name of it. It wasn't the Dang IPA. It was the Dang IPA.
But
yeah, I think you understand.
Thanks again for watching us here. If you're not a member, there it is. The Dang IPA.
There it is.
That's Rob's.
That's Rob's.
That's his go. Look at that. It's 8.5% though. You better not be driving on that deal.
Okay.
Or 8%. That's gonna.
I'll kick.
Leave a little snake bite.
Yeah.
But if you're not a member of HuskerOnline.com, great promo, great deal going on as well. 2 months of action for $1. Simply use promo code NU1. That's 2 months for $1. Promo code NU1. Okay, headline 4. Cade Povich versus Spencer Schwellenbach. 2 Huskers squared off as starting pitchers in a Major League Baseball game. It was a special night for Nebraska baseball. You had Will Bolt in attendance at the game to watch his 2 former players. And, you go back to that team as you see.
Which team?
When Nebraska baseball and you see Povich now with the Orioles and Schwellenbach with the Braves. But you go back to that 2021 season.
Yeah, I think it was 20. Yeah.
And how good that team was. Well, they had the Big Ten Player of the Year, Spencer Schwellenbach, and they had arguably the best pitcher in the Big Ten, Cade Povich. And that team nearly went into Arkansas and beat the number 1 ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
And now you kind of understand why. I mean, to win against these SEC teams, you got to have dudes.
Yeah, you're right. We'll get back to that. How special is this? It's never happened. It's never happened for Nebraska. They've never had ever, or at least for a century, 2 former starting pitchers squaring off in a major league game as starters. It's never happened.
Like Shane Khomeini and Jabba Chamberlain. Like,
never happened.
I can remember when Khomeini was with the A's. Mm-hmm. Justin Seeley was living with me as a coach on the staff, and we had the MLB package.
Okay.
And not Rob Childers, Andy Sawyers, and they came over my house to watch the game.
And who was pitching?
Shane Khomeini was pitching for the A's.
Okay. Did he have much of a career with the A's?
He started some games.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, he played some. I mean, he got up there a little bit, but it wasn't a long career. But he was a starter for a few games.
Cade Povich made his second start in the majors in this game and was excellent. 6 shutout innings, no walks, 6 strikeouts, 5 hits. That's excellent. I mean, he was in line to be the winning pitcher, but the Orioles blew a 2-0 lead. Schwellenbach, that was his 3rd MLB start, and his line was similar to Povich's. In fact, they both threw 89 pitches, and they both pitched 6 innings. Very similar outings. Orioles end up winning the game, but man, here's the thing. You heard about this; it was going to happen, but you don't know how it's going to go. Went really well. It went really well.
You've got another starter in the bigs from Nebraska baseball, Matt Waldron.
That's right,
playing for the Padres. So you got 3 guys right now starting in Major League Baseball that played for Nebraska. Jake Myers is a pro. I mean,
Aaron Bummer also pitched in this game. He's a reliever for the Braves. Bummer. I remember Bummer very well. I covered that team 2014. So yeah. And not only that, Cody Ashey's a hitting instructor. I think they call him a hitting coordinator for the Orioles. So there was quite a Nebraska presence. You mentioned Will, who was sitting behind home plate, not very many rows up. He had prime seats, as he should. So yeah, Schwellenbach was just lights out.
He was a shortstop too.
Great shortstop at Nebraska. Lights out in his last year. I always wondered if he could be a starting pitcher. He was throwing in the mid-90s last night. He throws it, and I remember he threw hard for Nebraska out of the bullpen though. And he also throws a really low slider and an effective changeup. He's a gamer. He was a great kid. I mean, I remember him a little bit more than Povich. I dealt with him more. And I think back on he was a great representative. A lot of guys are, but he probably took it to another level. And I'm sure Cade Povich did too. Cade Povich he probably had a little better outing in this instance than Schwellenbach.
It just made that team in 21. They went 31-12 in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, that's good. So 31-12 because they played exclusively a Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, and because of COVID concerns, they weren't even allowed to play like Creighton.
Right.
I mean, just
there were some concerns.
They couldn't play UNO. I mean, it was, and Will Bolt, to this day, I guarantee you that season, he thinks about how good that team could have been if they would have been able to play just a couple of midweek games. But everything was conference only. You played 4-game conference weekends. There was no conference tournament. So Nebraska was penalized in the RPI, and they were shipped as a 2 seed to Arkansas, where if they would have had another set of games to kind of go with their Big Ten resume, they would have been hosting that year.
They were definitely a 2 seed, not a 3.
We weren't working together yet.
No, we weren't.
But we were both over there that day.
Yes.
And Will was not happy.
No, he wasn't real happy
when they got shipped to Arkansas.
Right.
I mean, it's just mainly not happy at like Kevin Warren in the Big Ten and just the decisions that affected the conference.
Well, but anyway, these two guys, that
was a loaded that was a really good team when you think about it now.
And then to have this happen is remarkable in every sense of the word, remarkable in that it's never happened for Nebraska. Now maybe it'll happen again, but yeah, that's an amazing achievement for these two guys. And you know what? It'll be interesting to see where their careers go. That's the beauty too.
All right. Headline 5. Before we get to that, again, Husker on the headlines brought to you by Zipline Beer. Get out, check out one of their, they have a restaurant now in Fallbrook.
A Zipline restaurant?
Yep. They have a tasting rooms all over the Lincoln and Omaha areas. The social hall is closest to me is on 56 and Pine Lake. Is an outstanding place.
Social hall. And
you would like it. You know why? It's old school.
Okay. I got a question. You can answer this. You're smart. Why do you like Zipline beer? What is it about the taste?
Just the quality, the consistency. I mean, there's been a lot of micro brew beers that have come and go. They have withstood the test of time. And this is the beer hall. And there's long tables across. It's a unique concept. You know what you're not going to find there? TVs. They don't want this to be a sports bar where you come in.
Oh, really?
They want you to come in and talk to people and visit and just kind of hang out. So it's a unique concept that they have there.
Talking to people, very unique.
Their tap rooms and what place was like that was Ireland.
Yes, you did a lot of that.
Games weren't on TV. Like you didn't have
you and Rob enjoyed some Ireland, didn't you? Some Dublin.
You were too busy working.
I wasn't working that hard, but I mean me and Greg were a little old for the nightlife.
Oh,
although Greg was.
Greg wasn't old.
No. Okay.
I was still on probation. I wasn't even official with you guys yet.
Oh yeah,
I was on probation still.
Yeah, you were
rivals probation, but all right. Headline 5.
Those were the days.
Odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
I want to start with this. The Big 12 is thinking about just giving up their conference name and just selling it. And like the Outback Bowl. I mean, they could be called the Outback Conference or just a business name on the conference. And you think about it like, hey, you know what? They're kind of maxed out on what their TV dollars are.
Are they maxed out?
Well, they don't have the eyeballs.
Right.
Other than Colorado can give them maybe a boost here and there, but they don't have Texas. They don't have Oklahoma. They don't have Nebraska. They don't have A&M. They don't have Missouri anymore.
Boom. Those are big hits.
They've been
those are big hits.
So for them, they have to find creative ways
to make money,
to increase
revenue streams. I mean, I know our listeners and you probably are expecting me to go off and talk about the way college football has become. It's about money, and this is just a great example of it. Logos on the field, naming your conference after I don't know what are we talking about? Like some kind of corporation?
Charles Schwab,
yeah,
or just
yeah. I don't know. I don't. It doesn't.
What I mean, are there restrictions?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of bothers me a little bit, but all we talk about, and I've said this the other day, I'll say it again. All all we talk about, it seems like in the off season, is money. If it's not NIL money, it's, oh boy, look at the Big Ten and the SEC, how they're positioned. Why are they positioned so well? Because they make all the money. Their multimedia rights deals are the most lucrative. They're in the best position. Thank God we have all this money. I mean, everything's about money. And Sean, it was not always that way. It was not. We didn't have these discussions in 1987. I mean, it wasn't that at all. But now it's about money. And so why would I be surprised by this? I'm not judging anything. Yes, I am. I liked it better the other way, but this is the way it is. Now, what are the restrictions? Would they actually name it the Outback Conference? No. Would it be the Big 12 Conference?
The Anheuser-Busch Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, maybe that. Would that bother you?
I don't think you can do a beer sale.
No, not
what if like the Mormon church, somebody ringed up a bunch of money and they said, we're going to sponsor the conference?
Well, how would it?
Because BYU.
Yeah, what would the name be? That's the question.
Latter-day Saints Conference.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to like
that's not going to fly.
What's a name that would make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like our business, a private equity or somebody that's going to come forward.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about
the McDonald's Big 12.
It's in keeping with what's become the theme of college sports, the financial element.
Well, if like Memphis would have been in the Big 12, you got to wonder if FedEx would have been would have been a viable.
Well, the FedEx Big 12 Conference, I think most people just still call it the Big 12, but on their letterhead and what have you, it would be the FedEx Big 12 Conference. But would you call it the FedEx Big 12 Conference? Probably not. I just call it the Big 12.
As a sports writer, an old school AP style book guy, are you going to be required to call it the FedEx Big 12 Conference?
No, I don't think you would.
Or is there going to be kind of an ethical line that you take?
It's interesting you asked that, because there was that conversation a little bit for the bowl games when they started attaching those names to them, the corporate
back
names.
In your super fancy newspaper days.
Yeah, and you wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily name the corporate sponsor. I'd just say the
once. Would you have to do it once?
Not necessarily. It was almost kind of what was it? What was the Orange Bowl? Was it
the FedEx Orange Bowl?
FedEx Orange Bowl. I just call it the Orange Bowl in writing. When I was writing about it in my super fancy columnist role at the Journal-Star, I would just call it the Orange Bowl. And I would think in the back of my mind, I'm just going to call it the Orange Bowl. I don't have to say FedEx.
Where the Citrus Bowl has kind of taken on different names. Like they were the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. And
see, it wasn't the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl though, right? It just became that became the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. So it's confused.
Well, the Peach Bowl, to go into the New Year's Six, they had to be called the Peach Bowl again. But if you remember, it used to be called the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Oh boy.
But to be in the New Year's Six, you have to carry your original name.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too wound up about any of that. That's what it is now. It doesn't make sense to get too wound up and be.
All right, what else did we want to hit on?
Plant your flag on that. CWS is in Omaha. I can't name the teams. I can name a few of them. Florida is in there, and they're intriguing, obviously, because of where they came from. They were a sub 500 team in the SEC, and voila, they got pretty well in the postseason, and here they are. Texas A&M is there. I don't have anybody clamoring for me to go talk to Trev. I don't know.
Well, I would assume he'll be there.
He doesn't have to be there.
I mean, he didn't go to the March
Final
Madness.
Four. Yeah, or Final Four. Yeah, he didn't go to the first round, not the Final Four. He didn't go to the game in Memphis against Nebraska. That was a little different because they were playing Nebraska, right? How would Trev be received at the Schwab?
I think
how would he be received?
I don't think it's it's not like Husker fans all there. Very, very few Husker fans.
Right. Good point.
I mean, there are some, clearly, because that's the season ticket base, but I don't think it would be as bad as you think.
Much different than Memphis.
Right.
Memphis, if I were his advisor, I would have said, don't go near Memphis. You don't need that because it could get ugly.
Will they show them on the screen though?
Boo! Would you get
you know who the main camera guy is in the stadium? No. JJ Davis.
Oh, really?
And JJ is an old news hound. He's going to get.
That's the camera guy.
Yeah.
Now would Trev get booed? Because there's not, like you said, there's not a lot. I don't know what the breakdown is of.
Let's welcome back to the College World Series, Trev Alberts.
Then what would happen? Polite applause?
I don't think so. I don't think it'd be very. I don't think it'd be really well. I don't think it'd be very welcoming.
Impolite.
So
Scene?
I can imagine Trev will keep a low profile. I don't think he wants that.
I think, yeah. God, that's Sean. At some point, you got to go out and be the AD, right? You can't just hide in your office forever, right? But you don't always go to Nebraska. That's the thing. You don't always go to the place where you spurned. I mean, I'm just gonna say spurned.
Maybe Troy Danick can show him the new stadium plan. Tennessee, though, is the number 1 overall seed.
Okay.
And they play Florida State Friday night. That's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
The game that intrigues me, though, is Saturday night, A&M Florida.
Does it intrigue you?
Well, Florida's hot.
They are, and they're interesting.
Hey, Nebraska sword fought with Florida. I mean, it wasn't like they hung with them, but now we're learning Florida's pretty good.
Well, they're really good offensively, and they just pound it. I mean,
and that style
against Nebraska, they just hammered it. They hammered the ball.
And that style doesn't work always in Omaha.
Right. I mean, partially because the stadium's so big and the wind blows in a lot of the time, and partially because the pitching's much better.
The year Indiana made it with Schwarber, I'll never forget. They had a lot of balls in Rosenblatt that were home runs.
Schwarber still playing for the Phillies,
and
by the way.
Those were pop outs. TD Ameritrade.
Yeah, and we have to be very careful at this point to not act like we know what we're talking about, because we don't. Well, not when it comes to the CWS, right? Do you?
No, I mean,
no, I don't. I barely even know who's there.
NC State's red hot. Like, that's a team to watch.
Okay.
And they play Kentucky. And so it's interesting in the brackets. You have one SEC team with 3 ACCs, Tennessee with 3 ACCs. Then you've got one ACC, NC State, with 3 SECs. So
SEC and ACC, predictable, right? Very predictable. That's where the best baseball is.
The West Coast, you would like to think, is going to be there a lot of years. And Oregon State fell short, and some of the other teams fell short. Arizona fell short.
There was a time when USC was a power. Rod
Dado.
Yeah.
You tried, Jordine.
You were ready for that one, weren't you?
I was like, oh, God, don't do it. Don't do it. And you're like, Rob Dado.
I said Dado. It's Dado. But anyway, no, I mean, and I don't want to say I'm not interested in this. I'll have it on as background noise. How about that?
I can hear Jack Payne saying his name still.
Can you?
Well, just like recognizing the past.
Because you lived right down the block from.
I worked at Rosenblatt.
Yeah, you were. I covered a lot of it over the years. I mean, but we don't really do that now.
No, you would just see and meet so many great people working those games and being a part of that. So I don't get to go up as much as I used. I'm going to go to the championship for one game this year.
Are you going to
go? But growing up, it was like we went to every game. My dad and I would go every game.
Did you really?
For several years.
Really?
We had tickets in the family. So
that's what I needed to hear at Rosenblatt.
We had 6 seats down the third base line. And so we'd go to about, it was just kind of, and they've redone the format to make it attainable. They kind of tried to make it almost a 2-week tournament. And now it starts on Friday and the championship series begins on Saturday.
I'm going to give you an analogy since you are the king of analogies and see what you think. To me, Rosenblatt was that muscle car that your neighbor just kept up, and you were every summer you'd be like, man, that looks good. Good job. And while the Schwab is like a Lexus, it's just it's not, there's not a lot of charm, but it's nice.
Well, the infrastructure around Schwab has been built up now. There's way more things to do.
Okay.
And that's where Rosenblatt lacked. Like, it was just like tents and pop-ups and tailgating. And that's what made it unique. It was very grassroots. I mean, there was like literally one bar you could walk to from Rosenblatt.
Right.
And it wasn't very big.
Right.
And now there's a ton of restaurants and bars that you can literally build your day around. And, I think that's what the NCAA wanted. They wanted more of an infrastructure around the ballpark. entertain more corporate sponsors and do these things. And some people like that. Obviously, some people don't like that.
Well, I'll tell you what we wouldn't like is if the CWS ever left Omaha. So I don't want to ever take it for granted and talk poorly about it. I do hear that sometimes, people talking poorly about it, but I'm not going to. Just because I don't follow every game doesn't mean I don't respect the tournament.
Well, the new fan tradition for fun is the Jello shots.
I've heard that.
So Rocco's Pizza and Cantina, I believe the name of the place. It's right across the street from the stadium. And they started this Jello shot challenge for fun
for the teams
to the point where they sell like $1 million in Jello shots. I mean, just an ungodly amount of Jello shots.
It's amazing.
And they give a lot of the money to charity now, because to the point where it's like the amount of money come in on Jello shot sales is crazy. And they have a competition and a board
for the team competition.
And LSU won it last year.
Look at.
LSU sold like 88,000 Jello shots.
Why am I not surprised?
Multiply that by 5.
There's Rocco's Jello shot challenge board. Not exactly. It's pretty crude. It's still pretty crude board.
I am going to put an early wager on Tennessee.
Okay, let me look at the combatants.
Maybe A&M.
I'm going FSU. That's
FSU.
Party time.
Well,
party time.
The key is Ole Miss and Florida State and LSU have been the two that have just like rang this thing up.
You know this.
Well, yeah, I follow. I mean, they talk about it every year.
Florida State and LSU.
No, not Florida State. LSU and Ole Miss.
And Ole Miss.
They have kind of set the standard of this competition the last couple of years.
Okay. I'm still going Florida State.
Get a Jello. Have you ever had a Jello shot, Steve?
I don't think so. I don't think I have. I seriously don't think I have. I'm not opposed to trying.
All right. Well, new. So when you're over in Manawa hanging out, you gotta go over and get a Jello shot.
No, probably not. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. No, probably not. I got a lot of things to do, as you know. That doesn't include spending 2 hours.
You're building a swimming pool.
Yeah,
we won't get into it though.
Yeah, that I just don't think I have a lot of time to spend 2 hours just to get a Jello shot. I don't have that in my wheelhouse right now. Maybe in 10 years.
All right. Well, big weekend, camps, recruiting. Make sure you stick with HuskerOnline.com. We'll keep you up to date. And again, thanks to Zipline for our presenting sponsor of our shows here this week. Zipline beer, ZipLite, give it a try. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off for another edition of Husker Online Headlines.